Hello, y'all.
So, today we are going to focus on spring cleaning on the topic or subject of racism. And this topic I know can be very triggering for some to even acknowledge within themselves that it is something that they have inherited or even um, may possess qualities where like they have like racist behaviors. And getting to the point of recognizing where we hold some type of racist behavior or way of speaking or interacting with people requires us to approach with great care for ourselves and our safety, and it requires us to go within and grieve whatever needs to come up to be grieved. Um, and I wanted to do spring cleaning on racism here in Pussy Church today because so many women have been raised and conditioned to be pitted against one another as it is, just as a woman. Then, when you throw in skin color, it makes it that much more complex and it makes it a lot harder to bond and band together with fellow sister goddesses, especially if you have like this subconscious inner resistance to even acknowledging where there might be racism present within yourself. And so, having been doing this work myself for a while now, I realize how important it is to have a safe container to do this kind of work in. A lot of people choose to turn a blind eye to doing the shadow work related to deconstructing racist views and behaviors. But the ones that do choose to work on it, they need safety. And so I am going to create this container for spring cleaning on racism that you can use as many times as you need to, free of judgment. It'll just be between you and myself, or you and Goddess, or God, or however you resonate. You don't have to share what you're spring cleaning on with other people. You don't have to worry about the outside world as you do these cleans. So that way you can be confident and secure in your steps forward as you do this kind of really deep dive work within yourself. Um, with spring cleaning is an energy clearing tool. Well, I see it as an energy clearing tool, but that's not exactly how it's taught in the School of Womanly Arts created by Mama Gena. It is a tool that is used to vacuum your energy field of any emotional charge that you might be experiencing on any given topic. And you can hit like the negative side of the charge, the positive side of the charge. The point is to try to hit both. Sometimes you might have way more heavier things to say than you might positive, and that's fine. Eventually, as you work through the heavier stuff, it starts to teeter and balance to where you're able to see some of the positives, right? Um, and the way spring cleaning works is you do it in a container with another sister goddess or brother god, and you set an agreement with one another that after you spring clean, that you all do not discuss the clean, what was said. The person doing the witnessing, in this case, it's me witnessing you. Um, they are like the garbage man. So they witness, and as they witness, they accumulate what you're cleaning on. And then when the container closes, just like the garbage man, like they drive away and throw it away and never talk about it again. Like, and just like real spring cleaning, like when you clean your house, the stuff that you clean out of your house, you don't see it again once it's like in the dumpster, right? And so, same thing goes with this, especially if you're spring cleaning on such emotionally charged topics like racism. So, you need to have an agreement and feel secure if you bring this to the table with another person to do the work with. Um, and then it's also really important when you're spring cleaning to, especially on topics like this, to not really have facial expressions. So as we go back and forth in this video, like I will, for the most part, probably have a poker face, except for maybe the end when you're going into your trinities. Um, and the reason being that just like in therapy, like a really good therapist will know to monitor their facial expressions, because a lot of people have attachment styles and wounding that has caused them to attune to the expressions of their caretakers. And in this case, it would be to attune to the facial expressions of the space holder, right? So you want to have a poker face, so that way if someone says something that maybe they're like shaming themselves for, like you don't want to raise an eyebrow or or anything like that, because that's going to make them feel judged and take away the safety and diminish some of the integrity of the container, right? So try to keep a poker face. Maybe if you really know the person and you know how they are, you can give them like a reassuring smile. However, for the most part, don't do that with strangers. Only do that with people you really, really trust. Um, Also with spring cleaning, um, you might like, so this is a really deep and complex topic, right? Um, you might find that you have layers that repeat themselves, right? And it's okay to have that. Like, it's okay. Like, for example, let's see. So if we were spring cleaning on, let's say, if we were spring cleaning on white privilege, because I'm white, right? And it's layered. So I could be like, thank you, what do you have on white privilege? And then I would answer and it'd be like, I don't understand what white privilege is. Thank you, what do you have on white privilege? I don't understand what white privilege is. Thank you, what do you have on white privilege? I don't understand what white privilege is. Thank you, what do you have on white privilege? I used to not understand white privilege, but I'm now beginning to see where my whiteness does grant me privileges. Thank you. And you would continue, but you see how like I said the same thing over and over and over because it was layered. And I mean, obviously, like in my high school days, I don't know what white privilege is when I'm a teenager. Like this is not stuff that people like school people on. It's like stuff that is like, I feel like people always say like sex and money are very taboo with parents, but I also think um discussions around racism that are aligned with speaking from the heart space are also talks that parents avoid as well. Um, and so, anyways, you might find you have a few things you want to just keep saying, and that's fine because it's a layered thing. This is like something that is like deeply ingrained in pretty much everybody across the world on some level. Um, and then the other one is you might not be used to engaging with yourself in this way. And so your mind might draw a blank, and that's fine too. So if that happens, it'd be like, excuse me, it'd be like, thank you. What do you have on white privilege? And then I would say, I have nothing. You can say that. Thank you. What do you have on white privilege? I have nothing. Thank you. What do you have on white privilege? I have a lot of shame and fear acknowledging that I have white privilege. Thank you. What do you have on white privilege? So you see how like usually if you say I have nothing once or twice, usually it'll release that little layer, and then you can get going on some of the other stuff. Now if you find you're getting stuck, um, you can pause the video when you're watching and kind of like ask yourself a question, be like, okay, like since we're doing racism, you could think on your last answer and then be like, um, why did I say that? Where did that come from? What does feeling this way mean to me? Like you could reflect a little on the last one, and then usually just asking yourself a question will jar the mind to start working again on the clean. And then the other thing is like this is a really deep and complex subject, right? Like deep and complex. And so you might find after the clean or even in the middle of the clean that you're gonna have like some really strong waves of grief or shame or anger rolling through you. That is to be expected because this is stuff that has been hidden in the closet for a really long time. And once a light is shined on it through the power of acknowledgement, it's kind of like it's like been a secret that's been held for such a long time and it's become a burden, and like to like let go of that burden, it's just like all these emotions come through, right? That's fine, that's normal. Make sure to practice really good self-care with yourself. Make yourself a cup of tea, take a nice bath, and like self-massage your legs. Maybe you don't have a bathtub, get in the shower and do a salt scrub and maybe give yourself hugs. um, do breath work where you like breathe in, hold, exhale, hold. This will signal safety to your nervous system. Also, you can like lightly touch yourself. So like just like gently, if you realize you're feeling like a certain way, just signal safety. Like it's okay for you to acknowledge whatever it is you're going to acknowledge or say. Um, but you need to regulate and keep good care practices going with your nervous system. And along with that, I highly suggest going to some of my other videos that I have on like how to swamp. Swamping is a really great dance embodiment, like somatic release practice that helps your body metabolize and digest what came up for you with the clean. So like the clean is more like mental, emotional, and then the swamping is like the physical. So maybe you need a physical release and you can just swamp to racism and say that's your intention, to swamp that. Don't try to control it. Just let your body do what it wants to do. And so I'll link a video for the swamping in there so you can like do that if you feel you need to. It'll make it easier. Your body will release from the tissues and cells anything that it needs to let go of. Make sure you spend time grounding and sunning and just really good self-care practices. What else? You could spring clean on the topic as many times as you need. This is a really deep one, so I mean, sometimes less is more, sometimes more is better. Sometimes it's good to do a deep dive and do like, I don't know, like a week straight and then pull back out and give yourself some time to play and integrate in your day-to-day life and then go back into it. Listen to your body and intuition. And let's see. Spring cleaning always goes on a timer, so don't give yourself longer than 15 minutes to spring clean. I find normally spring cleans do really well anywhere between 3 to 7 minutes. That's like, I feel like 5 and 7 are like the sweet spot. And then there's this thing called pulls. And so like, let's say like, so we're going to do a spring clean today for 3 minutes and 3 pulls. What a pull is it signals to the subconscious like, hey, your timer has gone off, the clean is coming to a close, like go ahead and get everything out that you would like to get out. And 3 means you have 3 more chances to be like, thank you, I have blank, thank you, I have blank. And it's kind of like squeezing like a pimple and getting everything out. Like in sometimes I find the pulls are where the like really nitty gritties are that you didn't want to say, but you also have like that fear of missing out and not getting it out, right? So yeah. And if you do this with a partner, like y'all can do however many pulls you want. I tend to like the number 3 and 3 for the spring cleans on YouTube. But I mean, you could do 5 minutes and 2 pulls. You could do 1 minute and 1 pull, whatever works for your schedule at the time. And sometimes if you notice a person is going on into run-ons with a spring clean, you can interrupt and be like, I'm going to interrupt your clean at this moment. I've noticed like you ran a little long. Can we break it down so you can digest it a little better? And the person will autocorrect. And then you'll be like, okay, I'm going to commence the timer again. Thank you. What do you have on blank? That's fine. And then the other thing is with spring cleans, like just like when you go into think of it like a psychic surgery in a way. When you go into an actual surgery, which I've had, the surgeon is really precise with their incision, they're precise with the equipment they use, everything's very concise. Like it's not like they don't go in and take out a chunk of your body to do the work. They go in and they do it incrementally, very like fine-tuned ways, right? So when you spring clean, it's the same thing. If you have a story about the topic, then break it down kind of like a disposable camera where you have like a frame for each like 24 shots that you have in the camera. Like break it into a frame. So for example, if I were like spring cleaning on something like with my husband, let's see, it would be like, thank you, what do you have on your husband? And I'm going to demonstrate the wrong way first. Oh my god, there was this one time where like his sister and her husband ganged up on me and it had me so stressed out, and then like my husband didn't have my back and blah blah blah. That's too long. So then the proper way would be like, thank you, what do you have on your husband? There was this one time where his sister and I were not getting along. Thank you, what do you have on your husband? And I tried to handle things woman to woman with healthy communication. However, that blew up in my face. Thank you. What do you have on your husband? Then she got her husband involved, who got my husband involved, and it was very stressful. Thank you. What do you have on your husband? So you break the story down bit by bit into digestible little sections. Okay. Also, so on this topic, since it is such a complex one, You can tweak this however you want. Um, let's see, there's a lot of things that fall under racism. I'll go into my shadow work story on this just to kind of give you an idea, and then we'll go into the clean. And yeah, okay, so when I decided to get into this part of my shadow work on racism, because I'd already been working on deconstructing it bit by bit like the last few years, but I went really deep in, geez, like the last 3 or 4 months. It happened when my husband and I were looking for houses in Florida, and we came across some racist men, and they they thought that because we were white and because they were white that they could say what they said. And they were saying like not to live in this one neighborhood because this is where Negroes were, not to live in this one because Negroes were here too, but this neighborhood's good because it has the Greeks, and this one's good because it has like KKK. And we were like appalled. However, um I understood the beauty of this conversation, because had we not met these people, we would not have learned about the KKK being near an area that we were wanting to move into possibly, and we would not have learned about such blatant racism, because where we're coming from, like, I mean, racism's everywhere, but where we're coming from, we don't have the KKK. We don't have people call neighborhoods like Negro neighborhoods. Like, we're not from the South. We're from the Southwest. It's different out here. And so it was really like culture shock to us, right? And my husband and I are like, whoa. And we were glad that we had that conversation, because my brother, he is Black and he is from Africa. My father is Black and he is from Africa. And then I have a lot of soul family that is African American and Black, and they're from the States, right? And so we were like, well, we don't want to like move into the wrong neighborhood, because then like when my brother moves out here, like we're not gonna feel safe with him being here and possibly being like beaten by like some person that like doesn't even realize they're racist and just acts in these ways. Because believe it or not, some of these people don't even know they're racist. It's crazy. Um, so we're like, whoa. And then we also realized, because we're not used to seeing as many Black people or people of color. Well, we're used to seeing a lot of Hispanics and Navajos out here, which I guess people would say they are brown. I have a really hard time still, as I'm doing my own inner work on what to properly call people. It's complex. And so, anyways, out there, we're not used to seeing so many like African Americans, Cubans, like people from the islands. Um, we're just not used to it. So then when we were looking around at houses, um, there was this one neighborhood where we're like, oh wow, there's a lot of Black people in this neighborhood. And then we were like, maybe we should look at another neighborhood. And then my husband and I looked at each other and we're like, holy shit, that was like our like inner racist coming out. Like, oh my God. Like, and we were like so appalled with ourselves for having that aversion to living in a neighborhood that did have a lot of Black people. And so we were like, fuck, like we need to like spring clean and swamp and do a deep dive into this. Like, this is doing a huge disservice to the people in our life that are Black. And like, we've been doing work around it, but it's just like it was called out in us by being in a different location, right? And so I might sneeze, by the way. And so excuse me. And so yeah, we were pretty shocked with what we saw within ourselves. So then we get back from the trip, and we decided to do a week of spring cleaning on racism. And that's when we realized how big a topic it is. So like we spring cleaned on racism, we spring cleaned on the topic of Black people, we spring cleaned on the topic of Black men, we spring cleaned on the topic of Black women, we spring cleaned on the topic of ancestral racism, we spring cleaned on the topic of white privilege, we spring cleaned on the topic of people of color, we spring cleaned on the topic of oh, what was it? Asians. We spring cleaned on the topic of something else. Oh, on our inner racist. Like, what do you have on your inner racist? Um, And yeah, we spring cleaned on so many topics because racism barely captures like everything else underneath the water of the iceberg that is racism, right? And it was hard. Like the first 3 days that we started the spring cleans, there was so much shame, so much grief just rolling through both of us. I was terrified that if I was honest and told my daddy brat and my brother brat that like I was spring cleaning on this topic, and I was appalled at some of the things that I was saying that I had never really illuminated before, that were just like buried in a closet within me. I was worried that by sharing and being honest and transparent with them, that they would abandon me. And I was like heartbroken about it. And I had conversations with both of them. And like, I was like, look, this is where I'm at in my journey. Like, this is a really difficult subject. This is what I'm finding within myself as I do the spring cleaning. And then it brought about really good conversations too. Like, my brother was like, well, it's not, he's like, it's so different in the States. He's like, but like, y'all divide it like white and black and skin color. And he's like, but it's economic. It's not even like the skin color. You have white people that are poor, you have black people that are poor. You have the government purposely like pitting one against the other through like class systems. And it was just so refreshing to feel supported in doing the shadow work because I was so worried about being attacked, right? um and even with this video, leading up to this video, like I felt so passionately about it and wanting to do the work and help empower people do the work, that I talked to my other sister goddess, and she is Black African American. And I told her what was coming up for me, and she was just nothing but loving and supportive as well. And so, I mean, what I learned as I like spring cleaned is like, as long as you're aligned with the heart and doing the work from a place of heart and being of service to yourself by like removing this stuff so you can more fully love yourself as you see like these parts of yourself you don't like, then you're like being of service to the collective. And if you're being of service to the collective from a place of heart, like you are going to be supported. However, it's really important to take time to integrate these changes, journal, work them out of your body, whatever you need to do. And yeah, like even like leading up to this kind of work, like I had realized where I had erred in my younger years, and I had said like racial slurs and stuff as a teenager. And I apologized to the people where those racial slurs were not the most loving. And maybe I didn't say the racial, like I didn't say the racial slurs to them, but I said it about their collective when I was younger. And so I did do the work and go within and apologize to these people, which was really scary for me and really bonding for us in our relationships. And I'm so grateful that I have the people that I have in my life. Half of my self-made family is Black, whether they be from Africa or America, the United States. Um, like, so I have to do this work. This is like my duty. Especially when one of my mottos is to be the love I want to see in this world. It's not loving if you avoid this kind of stuff. And then I bring this to the Pussy Church channel too, because it's like you have these stereotypes of women, and if you poke fun at these stereotypes, you're contributing to it. You are. And so I mean, like, you have like the white woman that everybody calls Karen, right? And then like you have the angry Black woman stereotype. That was another spring clean we did. We did a spring clean on the angry Black woman because it's a stereotype, and it's also an archetype. I feel like Black women have the right to be angry. Like, their ancestors endured so much, and then they inherited the epigenetics of their ancestors, which in the study of epigenetics, like if it's not resolved by a person, it increases with intensity like 3 or 4 generations down the line. So any anger that like great great grandparent had, it intensifies in like the person of this generation. um, and then they have their own conditioning and their own stories of their life that have also added fire to that anger, right? um, and then also like the other side of the coin with all of this is there for a while I went through like this like spiral of like shaming myself for being white, shaming myself for my ancestors, invalidating my own ancestral experiences, um, which like I've started like reconciling with that part of myself. And it's like, like my ancestors have a really rich culture and rich history that got wiped out by Christianity. Like, I mean, white people, like the Christian white people wiped out pagan white people. So then there's like all this inner conflict with my ancestors, right? And then also like what was like the other thing? Oh, then I had ancestors on my mom's side who like they fought in the wars to free slaves. And so I'm like, why am I shaming them? Like I had three brothers die in a battle like freeing slaves. Like I shouldn't be shaming them, you know? Um, so it's like you got to make sure that you're not like a martyr either in the journey. And if you are, like love yourself through it because eventually you'll get out of it. And then it's like also recognizing and being able to differentiate like the past and the now, you know, like I saw this thing the other day and it irritated me and I had to spring clean on it. And it was a lady talking about what's going on overseas with like Israel and Palestine. And I don't remember exactly how she said it, but basically it was an older black lady, not older, like middle aged, I guess. And she was saying how um, what's going on in Palestine is exactly what's going on with like the African Americans of the United States. And it just irritated me because like she used some like facts from like the past, and I'm like the past is valid, it so is, but it's like what's going on right now, right here, is not happening over here in the United States. It's not like it's a different degree of intensity, and I'm not invalidating what's going on over here in the US, but like I have not been hearing stories of babies getting beheaded and pregnant women getting gutted over here. I have not. It's not the same thing. And maybe it was the same in the past, but right now, right here, what's going on with like Israel and Palestine, like that is presently what's going on. The past that she's talking about is her own inner conflict that she needs to work through, and not like put onto the current conflicts. And maybe I'm going to catch heat for saying that, but whatever. Like, take what resonates, you know? And so that was really interesting watching that video because then I was telling my husband, I was like, well, it's just interesting. Like, I went through my moments of like rage and grief and stuff as I've been like slowly doing my own internal work on this topic of racism. But it's like, I have a history of like gypsies, the Roma. They have been so abused, so hurt, so tortured on such a level that so many people don't talk about. And you know what? Like, I'm sure I have inherited my ancestor, like the gypsy ancestors, their hatred, their shame, their anger. And here I am doing the work because of that, because nobody leading up to me has done the work. And like, of course they're angry and of course they're hateful because they've been persecuted, you know? But it doesn't mean I need to be angry and hateful and persecute others based off of my past in my family tree. I don't. I need to do the work here and now so that I can spread love through a ripple effect by doing the work within myself and putting that love into myself and into my family tree. And like I don't have any living members that are gypsies at this point. So it's like I can't bring that part of racism into the conversation of racism that has to do with what's going on presently. However, I can honor them and work through that stuff of the past and also honor what's going on in the present with like class wars and like skin color divides and all of that, and acknowledge what I do have going on, which right now I do have white privilege. Did my ancestors, like the gypsies, have that? No, they didn't at all. However, I'm not going to live my life from the past of my ancestors. I need to live right here, right now, and be responsible. And so, as women, like spring cleaning on these archetypes and spring cleaning on all these different topics under racism is so powerful. And like, down with the patriarchy, you know, like whoever's watching this is a strong, empowered woman. And if she doesn't feel that way, her soul is. And I hope she remembers her light and lights up. And you have it in you to be a change and a peacemaker and a way shower. And you can start by beginning within yourself and making internal shifts through spring cleans. Um, and so, and then, yeah, as you spring clean on this, it makes it easier for you to band together with your other sister goddesses and other women and to really view them with love, not like a sugar coated love or like a self denial love. Like, there's great power in this. So, anyways, this is a longer spring clean video than usual, but I wanted to treat it with a lot of care and help people have like tools to really work with and understand the tools they're working with. And then I wanted to share a little bit of my story, which goes deeper than that, but it's enough. And yeah, so now we're going to go into the spring clean. You can also spring clean by yourself. So that's what I do a lot. If I'm spring cleaning by myself, I'll set the timer for myself however long I want, and I'll be like, okay, Sister Goddess Poppy, are you ready to begin your spring clean on racism? Yes, thank you. What do you have on racism? I have, and then I'll just say what I have. Thank you. What do you have on racism? And I'll just go back and forth with myself, either in a mirror or with the wall, or sometimes I just sit at a park and I talk out loud, doing a spring clean with Goddess, with Mother Earth, like with the Divine Mother. And then that way I'm witnessed in that way. So you can do that as well if you don't want to like always play the video or try to find the marker for the video. All right, so I'm going to spring clean with myself for you to like have a demonstration for 3 minutes and 3 pulls. When you spring clean, say whatever comes to mind. Don't think too hard about it. You might say some things you're really not proud of, and I don't really know what I'm going to say right now. So we'll see what I say. And either way, if you say it, guess what? It's getting witnessed and vacuumed out and acknowledged, and then it's gone. So yeah. All right. So, Sister Goddess Poppy, are you ready to begin your spring clean on racism for a total of 3 minutes and 3 pulls? Yes. Thank you. What do you have on racism? And now I'm starting the timer. I have a lot of fear. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of shame. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of self-denial. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of hatred. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of inherited hatred. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of inherited self-denial. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I'd be lying to myself if I said I didn't have racist tendencies. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I mean, how could I not? Like, the whole side of my dad's side of the family is super Christian. Thank you. What do you have on racism? Christianity was built on like colonialization, which definitely has to do with racism. Thank you. What do you have on racism? So even if I'm not actively going out of my way to be racist, I know there's like those underlying patterns that I've inherited from my ancestors and predecessors, known and unknown to me. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I feel so guilty admitting that I have spoken racial slurs in the past. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I used to hold my purse closer as I walked down the street by an African American in my Denver days. Thank you. What do you have on racism? And I didn't realize like that was like my conditioning from news programming that caused me to behave in that way. Thank you. What do you have on racism? For a long time, I really tried to get other people to hear the pain that I've experienced as a poor white woman. Thank you. What do you have on racism? But then people like told me I wasn't getting the picture, and like it was like a matter of me invalidating them and them invalidating me. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of shame. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I feel so ashamed that half of my self-made family has been so good to me, even as I've had like an inner racist kind of governing some of my behaviors. Thank you. What do you have on racism? It makes me sad. Thank you. What do you have on racism? It makes me sad that there's just so much racism worldwide. Thank you. What do you have on racism? Sometimes I feel like doing this kind of work is pointless because so many people choose not to do it. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I feel hopeless when I do this work sometimes because I just feel like a lot of people would rather avoid going within. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I love people of color. Thank you. What do you have on racism? I loved when I was a tutor at an elementary school and all my students were little African American children. Thank you. This is your first of 3 polls. What do you have on racism? I have a lot of confusion. Thank you. This is your second poll. What do you have on racism? The news tells me one thing, and then my intuition tells me another thing. Thank you. This is your third and final pull. What do you have on racism? I have a strong hatred toward myself for being ignorant to how large a topic racism is and for how I have contributed to what is known as racism in this world. Thank you. This concludes your spring clean on racism. It has been an honor and a pleasure to hold space for you. Would you like to close with the Trinity? Yes. So Trinity is where you close with something positive. So the cleans go into really deep stuff. You want to surface and play and be present. So you focus on the positives, your wins, your gratitudes. So you start with a brag. I brag that I faced a huge fear today and I spring cleaned on racism for people that might judge me or misunderstand me. And I brag that I did it anyways and faced my fear. I brag that I stayed true to myself and showed up as a way shower to hold space for others that feel called to do this inner work. And I brag that I have an awesome husband that spring cleaned so many times with me on this topic because we both wanted to be of service to humanity. And I'm grateful to be understanding how complex this subject is. I'm grateful to no longer be playing the martyr role. I'm grateful for being more empowered as I do the work in this topic. I am grateful for my voice and the platform that I have on YouTube. And I desire that more and more people do this work and that people are kind to one another as they do this work. I desire that anybody feeling insecure, like they're not doing the work well enough, has someone there supporting them and holding space for them as they face off with their insecurities. And I desire that I just desire that the world be a more peaceful place and that more people go within and face their inner conflicts so that they can collectively put an input of energy into the world of radical transformation and radical self-love and accountability so that this collective that is currently incarnate is able to shift and leave behind beautiful seeds of light for the next generation to nurture so that way this is a more unified world. Well bragged, beautiful gratitude, and so it shall be, or something even better and wetter than your wildest dreams. Woo! So yeah, see, and I feel a little bit griefy and sad right now, so I'll probably swamp after this video. So this is a spring clean on racism. So now we're gonna go ahead and go into it with you. I will give you 3 minutes and 3 pulls also. Excuse me. All right. Sister Goddess, are you ready to begin your spring clean on racism for a total of 3 minutes and 3 pulls? I'm gonna hear you say yes. Thank you. What do you have on racism? 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 Thank you. This is your first of 3 polls. What do you have on racism? Thank you. This is your second poll. What do you have on racism? Thank you. This is your third and final poll. What do you have on racism? Thank you. This concludes your spring clean on racism. It has been an honor and a pleasure to hold space for you. Would you like to close with the Trinity? I want to hear you say yes. What do you brag? So you'll say, I brag, which is like saying, I celebrate something big, small. What are your celebrations? I brag. Well, brag. What is your gratitude? So list your gratitudes. You'll say, I am grateful for. Beautiful gratitude. And what do you desire? You can say a big desire, a small desire, whatever desire you have, go ahead and speak it. So it shall be, or something even better and better than your wildest dreams. Well done. Now go ahead and just take a deep breath and just savor the work you put in today. And maybe put a hand on your heart and a hand on your pussy, just like grounding into the beauty that is you and the beauty of the spring clean and the work that you did today. Maybe tap on your heart to kind of stimulate safety in the nervous system. a deep breath in, hold, exhale, hold, and go back to regular breathing. And you wiggle your body a little bit. Good. All right. So congratulations. I favorite frame you on showing up today and going into this part of yourself that is difficult to go into. And I brag for you. I brag on you. Wonderful job showing up today. This journey of self-healing and shadow work can be quite lonely at times. And I see you and I appreciate the work you're doing on yourself and for the collective. And I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed and beautiful and bountiful evening, morning, day, wherever you are. Thank you so much for your contribution of love to the collective. My heart to yours.